Do you remember stuff?
So I finally watched Obsession, and honestly, Hollywood executives should be panicking right now. First of all, the fact that a 20-something YouTuber named Curry Barker managed to shoot a movie for just $750,000 and somehow walked away with over $370 million at the box office is already impressive enough. It is an absolute humiliation of the studio system. But after the credits rolled, I realized this movie is doing something far more uncomfortable than simply trying to scare you. Because Obsession is not really a horror movie about a supernatural curse. It is a horror movie about modern dating. More specifically, it is a movie about what happens when people stop seeing relationships as human connection and start seeing them as systems to hack. For years now, the internet has quietly been teaching an entire generation something deeply toxic. It teaches them that love is not something you build, it is something you unlock. That if you are rich enough, attractive enough, or high status enough, then a relationship simply dispenses like a reward, like a video game achievement. The internet has convinced a lot of people that relationships are not emotional experiences, they are transactions. And if you keep failing socially, you start assuming there must be some hidden superpower everyone else has that you do not. Money, looks, status, height, influence. As if connection itself has become a paywall. And Obsession takes that exact suffocating worldview and turns it into one of the most brilliant, uncomfortable horror films of the decade. Because the monster in this movie is not the magic toy, it is the entitlement underneath it. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why. What set the stage? The premise feels deceptively simple. We follow Bear, played perfectly by Michael Johnston. Bear is the physical embodiment of the modern nice guy. He is awkward, quiet, socially isolated, and hopelessly, painfully in love with his childhood friend Nikki, played by Inde Navarrete. Now Nikki likes him, but strictly as a friend. She has her own life, she dates other people. And Bear is completely trapped inside that familiar emotional purgatory. A lot of people know far too well, the friend zone. Now, in an old school romantic comedy, this is where the protagonist would make some dramatic airport confession. The girl realizes she secretly loved him the entire time. Cue the music, everybody wins. But this is not a 90s movie. This is 2026. We live in the age of algorithmic dating, unread messages, and a generation increasingly convinced that love follows rules they somehow never learned. So Bear does something horrifying. He cheats, he discovers a supernatural toy known as the One Wish Willow, and he makes one simple wish. He wishes for Nikki to become obsessed with him, and the performances here are what actually make this nightmare work. Michael Johnston plays Bear with this pathetic, sweat-inducing desperation. He doesn't play him like a cool, calculated villain. He plays him like a coward who hid behind a magic spell because he was too afraid of real vulnerability. And Inde Navarrete's physical performance as Nikki is genuinely terrifying. When the spell takes hold, her entire body language shifts. She goes from this vibrant, independent girl to a vacant, robotic stalker. Her dead-eyed, silent stares are the scariest thing in the entire film. Even the supporting cast, especially Cooper Tomlinson and Megan Lawless, as the friends caught in the crossfire, bring a grounded, natural reality to the dialogue that makes the eventual violence hit like a truck. From a technical standpoint, Barker's directing is a masterclass in doing more with less. Instead of the polished, overlit look of typical studio horror, the cinematography is raw and uncomfortably intimate. He uses natural lighting and real suburban locations in Los Angeles that make the setting feel mundane and therefore deeply unsettling. The sound design is incredibly minimalist. There are no loud artificial jump scare noises. The movie relies on silence. The quiet creak of a floorboard or the soft thud of a door is enough to make your chest tighten. The director actually tricks you during the first 20 minutes because everyone understands rejection. Everyone knows the sting of unrequited feelings. And for a brief moment, the audience almost understands why Bear makes the wish. Part of the audience is secretly thinking, "Good for him." And then the spell takes effect, and the entire movie snaps its own neck and turns into pure psychological horror. The horror in Obsession does not come from typical monsters. It comes from watching Nikki lose her autonomy. There is a deeply unsettling moment where Nikki suddenly appears at Bear's house. And immediately, something feels very wrong. She is staring at him with this wide-eyed, unnatural devotion. She abandons her friends. Her hobbies disappear. Her entire personality begins collapsing into a black hole of affection. And suddenly, the audience realizes something sickening. This is not romance. This is a hostage situation. Bear did not make Nikki fall in love with him. He violated the very thing that made her human, her agency. He erased her ability to choose. And the film forces you to confront an extremely uncomfortable truth. A lot of romantic fantasies are not actually about intimacy. They are about removing uncertainty, removing rejection. Because genuine relationships are terrifying. You can fail, you can embarrass yourself, you cannot control another human being. But fantasy says something very different. Fantasy says, if only you had enough power, people would love you automatically. An obsession weaponizes that fantasy against the audience. But here is the truly brilliant part. The movie grants Bear exactly what he thinks he wants. Absolute success, total devotion, perfect romantic victory. He gets everything, and it immediately becomes a nightmare. Because Nikki does not simply love him. She is obsessed, possessive, erratic, completely detached from her original humanity. At one point, she is literally standing in the corner of his bedroom at 3 in the morning, watching him sleep, without blinking. And suddenly, Bear realizes something terrifying. The thing he wanted was never actually love, it was control. Bear didn't want a partner, he wanted a pet. And once you remove somebody's freedom, love stops existing entirely. Because attraction without agency is horrifying. The person disappears, and what remains is just obedience. This is what makes obsession so devastatingly effective. On the surface, it looks like supernatural horror, but underneath, it is dissecting a much darker cultural anxiety. The terrifying thing is that Bear's logic does not feel supernatural at all. More and more people genuinely believe attraction works exactly like this. Gain enough status, gain enough power, gain enough advantage, and suddenly people will love you. As if intimacy is some equation waiting to be solved. And the movie asks one brutal question. If you could force somebody to love you, would what remains even be love? Or would you simply discover that what you wanted was never connection at all, only power? And that idea is infinitely scarier than any ghost story. So, what is the final verdict? I think Obsession is easily a 9 out of 10, not because it is a flawless masterpiece, but because it understands something most modern Hollywood horror completely misses. Great horror reflects cultural sickness. And Obsession captures something deeply, painfully true about how the internet is quietly erasing the way people understand human connection. Curry Barker proves once again that you do not need massive studio budgets to make genuinely terrifying cinema. Sometimes all you need is one uncomfortable truth. But now I want to hear your take. Was Bear always a villain? Or was he simply the tragic product of a generation that has slowly forgotten how real connection actually works? Did the movie go too far with its metaphor, or is that exactly what makes it brilliant? Drop your thoughts below. Let's argue about it. And if you enjoy reviews that actually talk about what these movies mean, hit subscribe. I will see you in the next one.